Morning, everybody. That was a short introduction by Zach because I've got quite a lot of things to show you, and I didn't want him to be too long because there's a lot to go through. So I'm not going to talk too much about the wines. I'm at table 139, and so if you guys want to taste any more, you're welcome to come and see me at my stand. I'd rather tell you more about Villiera. Just to start with, I'm going to show you a 30-second video clip just to get you in the mood and to show you what South Africa, well, pictures of our farm and all different aspects of it. Okay, so we are a family-run vineyard. There's myself, I look after the sales and marketing side, and then my brother, Jeff Greer, who is on the right-hand side there, who looks after our whole winemaking side of our business. And then my cousin, Simon Greer, on the left, is in charge of our vineyard, our wildlife sanctuary, all our sustainable programs, which I'll make clear to you as we go through. So we have a 180-hectare planted to vineyard. When we bought Villiera in 1983, there was 20 hectares planted to vine, and the production was about 4,000 cases. We've now got 400 hectares, of which half we're returning to its natural state, and there are 180 planted to vineyard, and then we've got 100,000 cases that we're producing. So we're one of the bigger family-run vineyards in South Africa. We are committed to quality. We might as well shut up shop if we aren't. But along with that, innovation, and then we have a whole lot of projects that we started with many years ago, which I'm going to try and take you through as quickly as possible. And then it's not just us. We have a whole extended family. We employ 120 people, many of whom have worked for us for well over 20 years. So we try and make it a place where people want to stay. Where we are, we're in the Stellenbosch wine region. If you see the picture on the top, that's the whole Stellenbosch mountain range on the one side of us. And then looking towards the sea, you get Table Mountain, one of the most famous mountains in the world. And it has False Bay on the one side, Table Bay on the other side. Both those two oceans influence our climate, which is a Mediterranean climate. That's our tasting room. It's quite modern. We open every day. We get a number of visitors, also from the US, obviously. And because a big focus of ours is bottle fermented sparkling wine, a lot of our features and tasting room focuses on bubbly. Many of our foreign visitors prefer to sit outside because of our beautiful climate. So we also have an outside terrace area with a lot of trees that are hundreds of years old. And then on the vineyard side, we pay a lot of attention to pruning. We've had some Italian guys out for the last 3 years who've been training our vineyard workers to prune to extend the life of our vineyard. So basically, we never stop. We're always looking at new methods. We pay a lot of attention to canopy management. We don't irrigate, but we have probes all over our vineyard that measure exactly what our water levels are so that we can relieve the vine of stress if we have to. Then we have a strong environmental approach, and we Biodiversity of Wine Initiative accredited, and I'll make that clearer as I go along. We haven't used insecticides for well over 15 years. So a natural control has come back in place. We have a huge bird life population because of the fact that there's lots for them to eat. We bring in ducks to eat snails. You would have seen on the short video clip in the beginning with Snail Patrol. We buy in about 800 every year. We have blue crane, which is our national bird. We have quite a lot of breeding pairs on the property. And then the wine, which is obviously the most important part of this whole thing. We started in 1984. We met a champagne producer called Jean-Louis Denois, and he basically guided us as far as making bottle-fermented sparkling. We're one of the top 5 bottle-fermented sparkling wine producers in South Africa, and it's a very important category for us. The Tradition Brut we have here for tasting, and that's our non-vintage Cap Classique. All bottle-fermented sparkling in South Africa, which is adheres to the minimum quality standards and spends at least 12 months on the lees, is called Cap Classique, the classical Cape method. And we make all the way up to a prestige cuvée. We also make a completely additive-free, sulfur-free bubbly. And we do have a neck tag which tells people more about that because it's a bit of a niche market product. And then on our whites, we have a down-to-earth white, which is a Sauvignon Semillon blend. The down-to-earth name ties in with our whole environmental, sustainable approach. Plus, it's a consumer-friendly price point. It costs you the same as taking a cab in New York for a couple of blocks at about, I suppose, retail at about $13. And then we have a whole range of still wines. We focus more on Chenin Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc. You have got the white wine in one of your glasses, and please feel free to taste as I'm talking, because I'm not going to do a guided tasting. I probably won't have time for that. The Chenin is a strong focus for us. My brother was one of the founding members of the Chenin Blanc Producers Association. We pick it quite ripe, so there's always a little bit of botrytis there, which adds a little bit to the apricot toasty character and a little bit of wood, but not matured in wood, just fermented in wood for a little bit of wood spice, which you would pick up on the aftertaste. And then the other white that's quite important to us is Sauvignon Blanc, and we make a reserve of both of those, and then a Jasmine, which is a really aromatic white of Muscat, Riesling, and Gewürz. On our back labels, we try and tell everybody our stories. You'll see on a later slide, our wholesaler is operated by solar, and that's where the natural energy comes. So we've got illustrations on our back labels where people can actually go to the website and look up more about what the stories are about. The duck and snail is obviously the ducks we bring in to eat the snails. It's just to remind our sales team to tell people all our stories. And so in one box, you get a mixture of all those stories. It's carried through onto our packaging as well. So on the outer box, we also bring through some of the illustrations of our back labels. And then on our reds, we have a down-to-earth red, which is a partner in the same price as the down-to-earth white. It's a Touriga Nacional Shiraz blend, which is quite unusual for South Africa. Touriga was brought in years ago mainly for port production, and we just find it a fantastic blending partner for our Shiraz because this is an early drinking red that doesn't have a lot of wood influence, so the Touriga gives it great structure. And then Merlot is by far top-selling red in the South African market, where 60% of our sales happen. Pinotage more niche on export markets, and the Cabernet Sauvignon has done well on export markets as well. Monroe is our flagship red. We have a Monroe Bubbly and a Monroe Red, which basically are at the top end of our, and it's a family name, Monroe. All the men in our family's middle name is Monroe. And there's just some strap lines that we use, the solar powered, do good, feel good. The Tradition is obviously completely separate from our branding of our still wines. Unlocking Nature, Physiotherapy, those are all things that are mentioned all over our packaging and our material. And then, as I said, once we got our quality sorted out, we started with all our projects. We have a tree planting project where our staff grow out trees and we buy them back from them. We've planted over 100,000 indigenous trees in the last 5 years. And they started off small, and forests are growing. We have to fence them off to start with, otherwise our wildlife tend to pull them out as soon as we plant them. Our cellar, basically all our north-facing roofs have got solar panels, so our whole cellar and our houses operate on solar. We don't have to rely on our government-generated electricity, which is on the blink half the time. And then we've got solar domes as well. We have a recycling, no waste to landfill project. We have gardening projects, and we have an environmental center just to educate our staff about environment, because there's no point us all being sustainable and not having buy-in from our staff. This is our wildlife sanctuary. We get a lot of guys from the US coming. It's a 2-hour game drive, so we have a whole 2 hours to talk to people about Villiera and what we do. You can see there's zebra earlines, we've got huge tortoises, we've got a whole range of antelope there. And you would have seen the giraffe on the short clip I showed you earlier. And then with social upliftment, it's not only sustainability from an environmental point of view, we also look after our people. We have the officers of the Pebbles Project on Villiera, which are a group of fantastic people that look after thousands of kids in the winelands. They've got creches, after schools, they've got a feeding project, a mobile library, mobile trucks that come around with access to computers, a toy library, so each week the kids take out a toy, give back their old toy. And then we put in a lot of, with education with the older kids as well. We have a tertiary education bursary as well. And then all of this, ends up with us winning quite a few green and sustainable awards. This year, 2016, we are in the Best of Wine Tourism Great Wine Capitals catalogue, which is fantastic. They choose 5 different wineries from 8 of the top wine-producing regions around the world. So obviously the US will be in there, South America, 5 wineries from South Africa. And they choose the different wineries depending on what they special at. And ours was from the sustainable tourism side. That's just there is a website, you can look at their catalogue. And then we do enter our wines in a lot of international awards, because obviously for guys that need to sell our product, they need something to talk about. And so we do, you'll see both the wines that you are tasting, the one's the Cabernet Sauvignon, the other's the Chenin Blanc both. The Cabernet got 91 points from Neil Martin, who tastes for Robert Parker, which I suppose is relevant in this market. And then most of our other awards international awards are based in the UK, but if we start selling more wine in the US, I'd be happy to enter more competitions over here. At the moment, our sales in the US are all on the West Coast, and we only export a couple of 100 cases. So it would be really great to do something more on the East Coast, and that's what we're hoping for. Our prices, there are some price lists around, and you're welcome to come and ask me, but we go from sort of £13 retail shelf price for the down-to-earth. The varietal wines are between 13 and 15, and then all the way up to 20 for our bubblies and 40 for our prestige cuvée. And then this has got nothing to do with South Africa, but in 2006 we bought a small vineyard in the south of France in the Roussillon, which I have to tell you about because it's part of what we're all about. Grier is our family name. My brother's Jeff Grier, I'm Kathy Grier, my brewer. And it's basically south of Carcassonne, north of Perpignan. And we've got fantastic 40 to 100-year-old vines of Grenache, Carignan, Syrah. And you'll see the label is a map of Africa with a little red dot where Cape Town is, and our journey up through Africa to the little cockerel at the top, which is France. And that's basically the story. And so our vision is really to be a leading producer and sustainable, and to look after our staff and upliftment. It is Human Rights Day today as well, and my wedding anniversary, so I'm very popular with my husband. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I think I know that time is short, and I'd rather take some questions if anybody has some. As far as the US market goes, it really depends on who we end up working with. We're happy to come across here. I'm happy to appoint someone to be over here, but it depends on how much the potential is to sell as to how we progress in this market. But we do have quite a bit of point-of-sale material, and we do more restaurants than we do retail. So you have different point of sale material depending on where your strengths lie. But we do a bit of all of that.